said little since we arrived.
My apologies. My thoughts are with the Sunwell. I did not expect it to react with such force.
You ask, and the light provides. Need it be more complicated than that?
She speaks of the Sunwell, not the light.
Your fount was blessed by the heart of Anaru. It is one and the same.
I suggest you hold your tongue, High Exarch. That fount you so blithely pretend to understand predates the existence of human civilization. And in all that time, I have never heard of the Sunwell reacting with that kind of aggression. Liadrin, what was that beam of light?
I still wonder.
That question worries me, Liadrin. Is it wrong for it to do so? Small at first, but Fairbreeze now reports a problem. If the Sunwell is aggressive, what of the Light Bloom?
These worries will lead you nowhere, Regent Lord. As long as the Vanguard maintains the connection to the Sunwell, the light will see us through. Have faith. That is all that is needed from you.
Perhaps you should save your words for when they are asked for, High Exarch. I suspect they would be better received.
I think someone should remind Lord Thamar that he is a Regent Lord. He's acting like in the Lord of the Rings. He's acting like the Regent of Gondor, thinking he's the king of Gondor. You're just a regent, my friend. You are short-sighted. You have to respect your fellow leaders. Romath is as much a leader of the Council of Silvermoon as you are. Halduran as well, as the Ranger General of the First Riders, is as much as a leader of the Council of Silvermoon as you are. You're just regent. That means you momentarily hold the leading position of a kingdom without a king. You are no king. In fact, you are no ruler. The council is. You have to respect everyone here, and while everyone is doing their best to hold the threat of the void, you are spending our time and resources with vile words towards the High Exarch, towards the Lord Commander of the Lions. I think you should be more grateful if you were not for the High Commander, if you were not for the Alliance, if you were not for Prophet Velen, we would not be here. If you were not for Velen, you see, you would have died in the Burning Crusade. If you were not for Prophet Velen and for the work of the Holy Light, the Sunwell would never have been cleansed, and Kil'jaeden would have prevailed. So you should be more thankful, because when we were all working to vanquish darkness across the land, you were making pacts with Sylvanas, and that you never mentioned. You never mentioned how the elves were still feeling the destruction of the scourge brought to Quel'thalas, and instead of rebuilding Tranquillian and other outposts, instead of rebuilding the Ghostlands, you sent the Elvish forces to Northrend because Sylvanas told you so. That you never mentioned. You never mentioned how you were like a puppy while Sylvanas controlled you, right? You never mentioned that. You never mentioned how close to Sylvan as you were up to the cooling of Dalaran. You never mentioned how you tried to join the Alliance after the mana bomb in Theramore, but you keep bickering with Turalion. And you keep telling him how old the Sunwell is, while he has fought for 1,000 years a war against the darkness. He fought the 1,000 years war along Aleria. So I think you should be less short-sighted, Lord Thamar, because if you keep following this route, I'm afraid you will be no more than a memory and a page in the history of Quel'thalas.
Do not squander resources.
Sorry, what was before the Third War? Because Lord Thamar has shown an openness to work beside the Alliance during the battle for Azeroth, when he teamed up with Alliance forces in against Punajara. So he's open, and now out of suddenly he's so protective. And he's just Regent Lord. That means he's a regent. What is a regent? Is it someone who represents a consul? He's a representative of the Council of Silvermoon. He's no king, he's no ruler. The Council of Silvermoon takes decisions collectively, and he's acting as if he is the Council of Silvermoon. Yes, what happens is Silvermoon was founded by founded by Dathramar Sunstrider, which was an elf that crossed the seas with vials from the Well of Eternity. And when they landed in Eastern Kingdoms, they started to transform for being far away from the Well of Eternity. And they arrived at the northernmost part of the continent, and the vials of the Well of Eternity were used to create the Sunwell. That was Dathramar Sunstrider, father of Anasterian Sunstrider. So it was 2,500 years ago. So 2,500 years ago, the Kingdom of Quel'thalas was founded by Dathramar Sunstrider, who used vials containing magic water from the Well of Eternity to ignite the Sunwell. And a 1,000 years after that, the Troll War began. What is the Troll Wars? It happens that the place they decided to create the Quel'thalas, their kingdom, was actually the kingdom of the trolls, and specifically the Amani trolls. So the Amani trolls, they did not accept the founding of Quel'thalas, and they engaged in fierce battles for Eversong, because the forests, which the elves deemed their new home, were home to the Amani for thousands of years. and a war began between the kingdom of Quel'thalas, ruled by Dathramarson Strider, which was banished from the Kaldorei, which was banished by Malfurion and Tyrande, which was banished upon the ending of the Third War. He found his new kingdom amidst a war against the trolls, the Amani trolls, and they fought and they fought and they fought, but they couldn't defeat the Amani trolls because the Amani trolls knew the forests of Eversong like the palm of their hands, and the only thing that protected the newly founded kingdom of Quel'thalas 2,500 years ago were the magic that emerged from the Sunwell and that were spread by magic stones that were placed across Eversong. So after defeat and defeat and defeat, the elves, led by Dathramarson Strider, thousands of years before Lor'themar was even born, realized they couldn't win the war against the trolls on their own. So they reached to the empire of humans, the Arathor, which was an empire composed of human tribes on the north of the kingdom, and he reached to the humans of this massive tribe called the Arathai or Arathi. It depends. Blizzard use Arathai up to the Warcraft 2 as a pronunciation, and then they changed to Arathi. It's a decision on pronunciation. So up to 2007 you would say Arathai, and from I don't know, Legion and onwards you say Arathi. So this tribe led by an emperor, an empire of humans, accepted to help and aid the elves, the reclusive elves, against the trolls, who were also enemies of the human empire of Arathor. So a coalition and an alliance between the empire of Arathor and Quel'thalas marched upon the Amani trolls, and the combined forces of the ranger and wizard elves and the human fighters ultimately won and brought victory in the troll wars, and killed and seized the leader of the Amani tribe, and brought stability to Quel'thalas. And in exchange for the victory in the war against the trolls, as a token of recognition of the help the humans had lent to the elves, Dathramarson Strider made an oath that he would always aid and assist the humans whenever they needed, and also they would teach magic to the human tribes. So the human tribes that compose Arath, the Arathai or the Arath Empire, learned magic from the elves of Quel'thalas after their victory in the troll wars. So that's more or less 2,000 years ago, 1,500 years ago, that the Kirin Tor was created, the magocracy of Kirin Tor, after being taught magic, and the Arathi Empire broke down in many kingdoms: Lordaeron, Stromgarde, Alterac, Quel'thalas, or Quel'thalas, that changed its pronunciation as well, Gilneas, and we had 7 kingdoms of human tribes that were originally part of the Arath Empire of Arathor. But the oath still remained, to the point that in the Second War, the son of Dathramar Sunstrider, an Asterian Sunstrider, the king of the High Elves, that's how they call themselves, the Quel'Dorei. There's no Blood Elves. So more or less 50 years ago, when Anduin Lothar arrived in Lordaeron and told them about the threat of the orcs, the rulers of Quel'thalas were warned about the threat of the horde, and they decided to fulfill their oath, and they sent help Anasterius Sunstrider, son of Dathramar Sunstrider, the original founder of Silvermoon, which was a war mage. He decided to send forces to aid the alliance of Lordaeron, and when the orcs arrived at his footsteps, and Turalian came with Alleria to help, alongside with the White Hammer clan and other alliance forces, and pushed the horde and kind of retreated with the help of Sylvanas and the Far Striders. The monarchy of Silvermoon, which was an Asterian Sunstrider, realized that the orcish threat was bigger than they expected. So Sylvanas, by order of an Asterian Sunstrider, so Sylvanas was 600 years old by then, and an Asterian was like 1,000 years old by then, 1,500 years old by then. Dathramar lived up to 2,500. So she received the orders from the king, Sylvanas, to join the alliance of Lordaeron. So Quel'thalas became part of the alliance of Lordaeron to face the threat of the horde, who were at that point in possession of the demon soul and controlling dragons, and they had Alexstrasza enslaved and laying eggs of red dragons, to the extent the orcs were riding dragons, the Dragonmore clan, and trying to bomb Silvermoon from the air, and also Gul'dan having power augurs with the stones of magic that were in Everson Woods, to the extent the first augur wizards were created, and they were also a threat to Quel'thalas. And not to mention the Death Knights, led by Theron Gorifin, who were also at the frontier, at the doors of Quel'thalas in Eversong. The only thing that that made it so that the horde could not invade Quel'thalas was the Sunwell, just like it's happening now. I think Lord Thamar has missed a few of his history classes, because the Sunwell acted just like it's acting now during the Second War. It warded Quel'thalas, and it impeded, it held off red dragons, Death Knights, warlocks, warriors, and all the might of the orcish horde were held at bay by a metaphysical and invisible force, like an energetic field generated by the Sunwell. So the stones were already broken, Gul'dan used the stones placed in Eversong to create the ogre magi. So the ogre were originally dumb, and it was the work of Gul'dan with the stones of the elvish magic that gave a wisdom beyond what the ogres could ever reach, and they become wizards. And so the horde, the orcish horde at the time, had ogre wizards, death knights, warlocks. They had orc warriors. So they had many clans. Blacktooth Green clan. They had the Twilight Hammer clan. They had the clan of Gul'dan. I don't remember the name now. They had many clans. They had Doomhammer. The Frost Wolves were kind of killed and exiled when they crossed the Dark Portal because they refused to drink the blood of Manoroth. But the Horde had like 5 to 6 clans, and they were on the brink of taking Silvermoon. And Doomhammer realized that Silvermoon was not that important. He didn't know about the Sunwell. He didn't know about this kind of magic, about the Well of Eternity, about all of this that is the foundation of Quel'thalas. So he tasked the leader of the Dragon Maw and Gul'dan to stay and try to take Quel'thalas, while the bulk of the Horde marched to capital city of Lordaeron. And he found in his way the mountains of Alterac, and a very frightened and crook king, Aiden Perenode, decided to make a pact with Gul'dan and let him pass with the Horde forces freely through the mountain passages of Alterac. And all the bulk of the Horde flooded the plains that stay by Lordaemer Lake, which is the lake that bathes the capital city of Lordaeron. And it were not for the Trollbane, and I think it was, let me go back in memory, it was Thoras Trollbane and his mountaineer fighters. They realized Aiden Perenode had betrayed the alliance of Lordaeron and gave free passage to Orgrim Doomhammer, and they went to Alterac because the passages through the mountains are very narrow, so even an army of orcs could not pass with more than 2 and 3 orcs one beside the other. So he went with his elite mountaineers, and he was able to fight off the passing horde, delay them, and even stop the flooding horde to reach Lordaeron. It was too late though, because 2/3 of the horde had at least a third or 2/4 of the horde had passed the mountain range of Alterac and had arrived by the shores of Lordaemer Lake in front of capital city of Lordaeron, which laid defenseless with just King Terenas, because Uther, the Lightbringer, and the Knights of the Silver Hand were fighting the reminiscent orcs and trolls that were left in the hinterlands, and Turalian, the second in command of the Alliance forces, was with Illyria fighting the horde, and they lost in Quel'thalas. So we had Uther and Anduin Lothar fighting in the hinterlands, the remaining orcs and trolls that were left as a decoy so that Doomhammer could march quickly to Quel'thalas. And Thuralian and Alleria and Khadgar were fighting Quel'thalas at the borders of the kingdom. And they were managed to get help from Sylvanas and all the First Riders, all the military of the High Elves. And that was not enough to stop the might of the Horde, because they had red dragons. Not even the Whitehammer clan with their griffins were able to stop the carnage at the entrance of Quel'thalas. So Everson was put to the torch by the dragons, and the Alliance forces, namely Thuralian, Alleria, Khadgar, Kurdran Wildhammer, Sylvanas Windrunner, they were forced to retreat. Sylvanas announced that Quel'thalas was joining the Alliance of Lordaeron, and they decided to retreat to Capital City because they felt the Horde were leaving in bulk en masse the plains where the Everson Woods are located. But at the same time, Gul'dan betrayed Doomhammer, and Gul'dan, along with Cho'Gall and Twilight Hammer, so two of the clans of the Horde, of the 5 or 6 clans of the Horde, they left Zuluhead, which was the war chief of the Dragon Maul, on his own at Quel'thalas, and they marched south to Hillsbrad, the South Shore, and set sail to the Tomb of Sargeras, because they were after the avatar of Sargeras, defeated by Egwene, the guardian of Tirisfal. So Gul'dan sought the avatar of Sargeras, and Gul'dan was strong enough to bring the Tomb of Sargeras from the bottom of the sea upwards as an island, and he ventured inside the Tomb of Sargeras. But the Horde forces were easily exterminated by demons they met inside the Tomb of Sargeras, while the Horde Orcish forces and the Twilight Hammer that stayed outside were also defeated, because when Orgrimmar Doomhammer realized that Gul'dan had betrayed him, he ordered, instead of taking capital city of Lordaeron, and instead of winning the second war, he told his orcs that Horde meant honor. And as war chief of the Horde, it was his duty to fulfill the honor of the Horde, and he sent Zuluhead, who came from Quel'thalas, to tell him that Gul'dan had left. He sent 3 clans, the Dragon Maul with Zuluhead, and the Blackfoot Green clan, 2 clans he sent after Gul'dan and the Twilight Hammer. So these clans, so we had two of the 6 Orcish clans setting sail to the Tomb of Sargeras, and then shortly afterwards we have 2 other clans, the Blacktooth Green and the Dragomore clan, going down back to South Shore and setting sail to pursue Gul'dan and Cho'Gall. And while Gul'dan was inside the Tomb of Sargeras fighting demons and dying, the Twilight Hammer was outside being attacked by Blacktooth Green clan and ultimately defeated. So the plan and the betrayal of Gul'dan was for naught, because he died inside the Tomb of Sargeras. The Twilight Hammer clan broke down Cho'Gall was defeated, but fled somehow. And then it was the duty of the Blackfoot Green clan to return to South Shore and march again to Capital City to tell Doomhammer what happened and proceed with the war against the humans. But it happened so that when they were returning through the sea, they were found by the 7th Fleet of Quel'thalas, and they were held there, and the ships were broken. But nonetheless, the Dragon clan came with dragons that put fire and killed one of the heirs of Quel'thalas, son of Dalin Proudmar. They killed one of the sons, which was Derek Proudmar, and the 7th Fleet was put to the fire by the Dragon Maul. However, Kurdran Wildhammer arrived with griffins, and they were able to fight off the dragons and make them flee east to the Twilight Highlands. And then when news, actually I was about to say when news arrived to Orgrim, it was the opposite. When news never arrived, Orgrim Doomhammer realized that half of the Horde forces were lost because of betrayal of Gul'dan. And when that was too late, because Turalian in Alaria and the forces that retreated from Silvermoon had arrived at the capital city of Lordaeron. They pushed back the forces of the Horde. The forces of the Horde were pushed back all the way down through Toldo Span, which is the bridge that closes the gap between Lordaeron and Casmodan. So it was in Arethi Highlands. The Horde were pushed down back to Casmodan, where the dwarves, the Ironforged dwarves, were being held captive by Kurog Dadai, which was the leader of one of the clans of the Horde that was in this war against humanity in the Second War. And while Kurog Dadai was holding the Ironforged dwarves inside Ironforge, trying to break through, he was hit by the back by Uther and Anduin Lothar, who were returning from the hinterlands and joined Turalian in Illyria and the forces of the Alliance, which were scattered since the first battle in the Second War. So the united forces of the Alliance defeated Kurog, released and freed the Ironforge dwarves, and the dwarves of Ironforge, upon seeing that they were freed by the forces of human, elves, and dwarves combined, their cousins, the Wildhammer dwarves, the dwarves of Ironforge decided to join the Alliance as well of Lordaeron. So the Alliance of Lordaeron was now composed by Quel'Thalas, led by Alaria Windrunner. Sylvanas, the Reigning General, returned to Quel'Thalas to push the remaining of the Dragon Maul that stayed by the humans of the Seven Kingdoms and by the Wildhammer dwarves of the hinterlands and the Twilight Highlands, and the Ironforge dwarves of Ironforge. So all of the forces of the Alliance, all the aforementioned forces, marched against a running horde who were running up the hills, fleeing literally for their lives, and they retreated to Mount Doom, which is close to the Dark Portal from where they came, and it was a strategic position to flee, because it was a mountain with narrow gaps such as Alterac. And ultimately, the last fight, the last battle of the Second War happened at the footsteps of Mount Doom, and Anduin Lothar, the last of the Arathi, died by the hands of Doomhammer, and shortly afterwards Doomhammer was blinded by the light invoked by Turalian, and the remaining orcs which were in a frenzy were also blinded by the light of Turalian, and they were massively defeated. Turalian decided not to kill them, but to pursue them so he would find out where they came from. And this proved to be a very good idea, because upon going after the orcs, the fleeing orcs, who had their war chief defeated, and Turalian decided not to kill Doomhammer, but to capture him to face trial in Lordaeron, they arrived at the Black Morass, where the structures of the Dark Portal were found, and Khadgar was able to destroy the Dark Portal, even though many clans crossed back to Draenor, with the exception of the Blacktooth Green clan, who stayed to delay the alliance and then fled to the mountain, the Black Rock Mountain. I said Mount Doom, that's Lord of the Rings, sorry, it's Black Rock Mountain. So, after the destruction of the Dark Portal, they all returned to Capital City, and there, when they returned to Capital City, their next move was to free Alexstrasza and the Dragon Queen, and this happens in another book. But the first thing that happened was, and this people forget, the Prince of Quel'thalas, Quel'Thalas Sunstrider, son of Anasterius Sunstrider, was in Capital City of Lordaeron to reassure that the Quel'Dorei, the High Elves, were part of the Alliance of Lordaeron, and they were to be a key and strategic branch of the Alliance of Lordaeron to keep the teaching of magic to humans, to assist and help with the internment camps, the concentration camps that were created to hold off the orcs. And for like hundreds of years, that was the plan. The Quel'Dorei would be part of the alliance. Why? Because the King Terenas and the humans did not know, but the Prince of Quel'thalas, Quel'Thalas Sunstrider, was actually member of the Council of Six, which was a secret order, like Masonry, or like the Jews today, I don't know, were actually in political control of Lordaeron. So while the king, Tyrannus, was in charge, he was not actually in charge, because the magic of the Council of Six, I don't know if I remember all of them, but six, I think it was Antonidas, Modera, Quel'thalas, Quel'thalas, Kel'Thuzad, and I don't remember, but the six founding wizards of Kirintor, one of them was the prince of the Kel'Dorai, the prince of the High Elves, the prince of Quel'thalas. So he not only was he member of the Alliance of Lordaeron, but he was controlling Lordaeron. Hold on, I think my beer is freezing. Yes, it was frozen. But the thing is, so now you see what I'm saying. The High Elves, the Quel'Dorai, the Kingdom of Quel'thalas, under the rule of Anasterian Sunstrider, the second king of the elves, who at the time was over 1,000 years old, and his son, Kel'Thas Sunstrider, were pretty much in control of the Alliance. That's what I'm trying to urge people to remember. The Council of Six were in control of the Alliance, as much as Israel today is in control of the United States. So that was the Council of Six. They were at the backstage dictating the rules and what would happen politically in Lordaeron. And Quel'Thas was one of them. He's one of the main figures in the Council of Six of the Kirintor. So there was not a mere alliance between humans and elves, but was, on the contrary, it was almost an imperialism and a colonization of the humans by Quel'thalas and by the elves. So when the Dark Portal was reopened in Turalyon, in Danath Shrobane, in Alleria, in Khadgar, decided to cross to fight off Ner'zhul, because Ner'zhul opened the Dark Portal from the other end. He reopened from Draenor and sent Terongorfind and other orcs to steal the Book of Medivh from the library of Stormwind, to steal the Eye of Dalaran with the help of Deathwing from Dalaran itself, from the hands of Antonidas of the Council of Six, and brought these artifacts with them to Draenor, to Ner'zhul. Kel'Thas was alive, and Kel'Thas was still a leading figure of the Alliance backstage. So while we had young Arthur, the prince, being taught and and learning how to fight and how to be a king, how to be a leader, how to be a paladin by Muradin Bronzebeard, while Tyrannus also had a daughter, Kalia, while the humans thought they were in charge, while Alterac was under martial law, the Council of Six ruled the Alliance politically from behind the scene. And Quel'thalas, the Prince of Quel'thalas, of the Quel'thalas, was much in charge of the Alliance of Lordran. Only when Draenor was destroyed, the forces that crossed the Dark Portal never returned, and the Third War started. Arthas marched through Quel'thalas after Quel'Thuzad betrayed the Council of Six and set plague of undeath in the grains in Underhall, which was the major distribution center of grains to all of the kingdoms in the north, because Lordran was like Ukraine. It was the production center of the kingdoms in the north, was the fertile land. It was all infected with the plague of undeath, the grains, the bread that they ate, and Quel'Thuzad betrayed them. One of the friends of Quel'Thas, the Prince of Quel'thalas. And when Arthas decided to march to Quel'thalas with the dead body of Quel'Thuzad, which was killed by Arthas as a paladin before he became a Death Knight, he brought the dead body of this powerful member of the Council of Six of the Kirintor to Quel'thalas to cleanse his body in the Sunwell and use the force, the living force of the Sunwell, which now we know, because of the Well of Eternity, it had blood of Azeroth. So the Well of Eternity was not only a fountain of arcane, but it was also a fountain which contained the blood of Azeroth, which we now know in the War Within to be one of the most powerful sources of energy and magic power in this world. So that's why the Well of Eternity is so powerful, not because of arcane magic, but because of the blood of Azeroth that swirled amidst the fountain, the swirling fountain of the Well of Eternity. So the Sunwell was created with vials from the Well of Eternity containing the blood of Azeroth. That's why it's such a powerful fountain of energy and magic, because it's wired to the core way. So Arthas marched through Quel'thalas, killed Sylvanas, Windrunner, which was the which was the Ranger General of the military of Quel'thalas, and he marched upon Quel'Danas, and he faced an Asterian Sunstrider, and he killed the king of the High Elves of Quel'thalas. An Asterian Sunstrider, barely, because an Asterian Sunstrider had a sword which was so powerful and powered by the Sunwell that it almost broke Frostmourne. But ultimately he failed and he fell to Arthas. And then Arthas marched within the chambers of the Sunwell and bathed the corpse of Quel'Thuzad. And by doing so, he revived Quel'Thuzad as a lich he had done nasty stuff with the body of Sylvanas, making her a banshee and an undead. And then he came back. And then you might ask how this happened if Zuluhead, Gul'dan, Orgundunhammer and the Horde were unable to get inside Silvermoon because of the Sunwell, the same way the Void was unable to get inside the Sunwell. Because Dacthran, one of the elves, betrayed them and gave a free pass to Arthas. This time this did not happen. There was not a single elf to give a free pass to Xal'atath, like Draktan did to Arthas. So the elves were get by surprise. Yet Anastasia knew that the Sunwell would hold the Scourge, if we're not by Draktan. So when the son of the king, back in Lordaeron, in Capital City, receives the news that his kingdom has fallen and that his father has been killed by Arthas, a Death Knight, and that was after the king of Lordaeron was killed by Arthas as well. So when Quel'thalas receives the news, Capital City is run by Maurad and the other lieutenant. I think it's Maurad and there are two lieutenants that they are bosses in Halls of Reflection. They were left to hold Capital City, but the city was razed and destroyed by the undead, and they marched and did what I just said in Quel'thalas. And when Quel'thalas realized all of that, when he knew the Sunwell was tarnished and was deactivated, so to speak, by the shadow magic, that was the moment, more or less 40 years ago, that he decided to ask for help to the humans of the southern kingdoms of Stormwind. And when Garithos arrived, he said, "Fuck off, motherfucking elves," and betrayed the elves and left the elves to die because he was a racist, a supremacist, I don't know what he was. And Quel'thalas had no choice, but he was approached by a Naga, Lady Vash, and he accepted a bargain, so to speak, to fight off the Scourge and flee with the elves that decided to side with him to seek another source of magic. And you may ask, what is the source of magic? It is Fel. And who had Fel to give to Quel'thalas? Illidan. So many elves followed Quel'thalas, and they are the Scryers, the first of the Blood Elves. But many of the Quel'Dorei did not follow Quel'thalas, such as Verissa Windrunner, and she formed a paramilitary group of rangers called Silver Covenant and fled to Dalaran because capital city had been destroyed. And other groups of high elves also did not accept Quel'thalas, barring and Illithar. They are scattered throughout the Eastern Kingdoms in small settlements of high elves. So what I'm saying is, the intertwinement of Quel'thalas and Lordaeron and humanity, and particularly the Arathi Empire, is much deeper than people realize, and is much closer to our time than people realize. Just to give you a glimpse, the moment the Scryers returned from Outland to Azeroth and needed help, more or less 25 years ago, it was only then that Sylvanas vouched for them to thrall, and they joined the Horde. So the Quel'Dorei, and then the branch that followed Quel'Thas, which decided to rename them to Blood Elves. I don't even know. The Sin'dorei. They have a dynasty of 25 years old, because that's when they returned as Scryers from Outland, and Sylvanas vouched for them after the heroes, the players, recovered the necklace, the Windrunner necklace, which had the three sisters in it. It moved Sylvanas to a point that she reached to Troll and said, accept them in the Horde. And it was only then that Quel'Thalas joined the Horde 25 years ago. And it had no leader, because Sylvanas, as a Banshee Queen, as one that had faced the Nathrazim and faced the civil war in the Plaguelands and established Undercity as a realm, and she had none to do with Quel'Thalas. She was fighting for the undead, with the undead, for the undead. Yet she vouched for the Sin'dorei to join the Horde 25 years ago, more or less. 30 years ago, more or less. So the Horde, the Sin'dorei, the Blood Elves, which is a branch of the High Elves of the Quel'Dorei Kingdom, is 30 years old. So the ruling of Lord Thamar, of Romath, and Halduron, and previously, before Romath, also Aethas Sunriver, is a legacy of 30 years old. So everything we're seeing here in Silvermoon, everything was laid and built by the dynasty of the Sunstriders for more than 25 centuries. So that's why this individual, Lord Thamar, which is a regent lord for 30 years while Turalian fought by 1,000 years for the light. Keeps bickering with him will bring us nowhere. So Lord Thamar rule as a regent lord and not a rule de facto, because there's a council that rules with him. He's 30 years old. And 30 years old, 30 years marked by submission to Sylvanas, hence the elvish forces sent to fight in Northland, while Quel'thalas needed help to rebuild. Lord Thamar was being manipulated by Sylvanas to send elves to Northrend to fight Arthas, while they needed elves to rebuild Quel'thalas. So this guy here trying to play the king and the moral compass of the Sindarai is no more than a clown that doubts his own right to rule, as he stated to Bane the Bloodhoof in the Shadowlands, and that he is for 30 years trying to rebuild Quel'thalas with the help of many individuals, including Romath, including Haldurin, including Sylvanas, including Thrall, including many other kingdoms that decided to aid Quel'thalas. So we have to remember again that for many decades Lordaeron was ruled by the Council of Six of the Kirin Tor, and the Prince of Quel'thalas was a key figure at that shadow group, of that manipulative group. And only 30 years ago, this 25 centuries old kingdom of high elves decided one branch of it to follow Quel'thas and rename themselves Sindarai. And use Fel to feed, up to the point that Lady Liadrin and Prophet Velen ultimately won the battle against Kil'jaeden with the help of Kalecgos, of many individuals of the Alliance of the Horde, of the Shattered Sun. So I think we need more humility for Lord Thamar, because he is in no position of royalty, of tradition, let alone of power. He needs us more than we need him. That's what I have to say.